Alright guys, podcast number 3, what's up? So I had originally planned for a podcast involving a particular car and engine setup today, but unfortunately the podcast, oh god damn it. Demonetized, not that I'm monetized yet or anything. Gotta get a handle on that language. I think I told you guys that 100,000 times last video, driving to and from Nashville. Anyway, got my brother with me today, and I think that we're going to talk vape shit. Literally just said I gotta get a handle on the language, and I turn around and drop the S-bomb.
Yeah, it's pretty great there, brother.
So, today I am going to be talking about my noisy cricket. I just got this thing yesterday. It's a freebie from a friend of mine. And I've had this indestructible RDA for like 3 years. Now this indestructible RDA originally came out with the V1 noisy cricket. And if you guys can see the bottom side here, this is the V2. This thing's pretty cool. Runs just like a stack, but it's nice and compact like a miniature box mod. But 8-point bolts straight to the RDA, which is kind of badass when you think about it. Language. Jesus Christ, this is really going to be a...
Well, with the new, Kappa thing, you can't be, non-family, or you can't be family-friendly and talking about more adult-like things, or you're not going to get monetized anyways. So you have to drop a little bit of the cursing in there, or you won't. Your videos will just get immediately taken down anyways. So, I mean, somewhat good, somewhat bad.
What are you talking about? More adult things?
Cars, vapes, I mean, anything that's more...
Car content can still be oriented to family-friendly. Because that's what Jimmy Oaks does, and Tommy Effia, and Ricer Miata, Divine Media, Adam LZ, Taylor Ray. Shout out to all you awesome YouTubers out there.
Like I said, I haven't looked too much into it, but I just know when it comes to more of the slightly, more adult topics, if you don't drop a few in there, it's not worth a damn. But back onto the whole noisy cricket, it's actually not bad for a mech.
Oh, so build is a 24 gauge, 12 wrap, 3.5 millimeter Canthal, and this thing just rips. Watch this, we about to spread the corona, everybody. For a 12 wrap, honestly, the flavor's pretty impressive. I've not had the best luck with massive coils having a ton of flavor. I definitely feel like a lot of that has to do with the airflow on the indestructible. But again, this RDA was made with the V1 variant of this box mod. Of course, this is V2. It's safer. A lot of the issue with the V1 is the whole mod itself was polarized when in effect, which made it a danger in your pocket with keys, coins. Of course, like, you should try and keep keys, coins, and everything away from your vapes in your pocket. And I don't know why this thing keeps turning, but it's kind of aggravating.
Probably how bumpy the road is. But to elaborate a little bit more on the flavor thing with the airflow, I bet running the Buddha on this would be actually fantastic.
Well, too much airflow takes away from flavor, which is what I'm getting at. Like, that one has a ton of airflow, but not quite the Buddha. Like, it's almost there.
Yeah. Because, it always falls back into that, one thing is even something good can be too much at certain proportions.
I agree. One of my favorite things about the Mini Buddha when I first fell in love with the Mini Buddha was the fact that the airflow was so much it made it a superior cloud chaser at the time. Now airflow has come so far, and coil technology and everything over the last probably 5 years. I've had the Buddha for a hot minute, and even before the mini Buddha, I had a full size, and my love for it was the fact that granted, you could fit a quad coil in the full size Buddha with like no fitment issues, or not a quad coil referring to the Clapton style quad coil, like a 4 coil setup in the full size Buddha with like no issues, which was insane, because like fitting it in anything else was always a super challenge. I know like the Miso Horny RDA is capable of fitting 6, but getting it to wick and vape correctly is a nightmare.
Well, that's kind of like the Chingu RDA I had back at home from Geek Vape. Wonderful mod. It can be built with 4. It's just going to be a pain to wick it, to get it to run properly. You've got to have it on the right device to make it run properly. Which also
is something to be interesting. That one that you've got right there done with a 4 coil setup.
That?
Yeah.
I think the rebirth would be interesting. I don't know how it would work.
I don't know how. I was going to say, I don't know how well tucking the cotton would work.
That's going to definitely be the big issue, is tucking the cotton on that.
Well, so if you run 2 coils on... Well, no, because you're actually supposed to stagger that coil with the post, not even with the post. But to do a 4 coil setup, you'd have to put it even with the post. Yeah. So I don't know. So anyway, the RDA in question that we are referring to, I have no idea what it is.
This is the Rebirth RDA. I cannot remember the manufacturer offhand. It's a single coil mod, or RDA, sorry. It's a nice, good open airflow. It channels it directly to the coil, so it just brings it immediately up. It's a very nice RDA. I normally tend to run a two coil deck RDA, but I was given to me by a friend, and was very happy with it when I first got it and started playing with it. And it's been my newfound love for the moment.
Well, now that we've talked about the fun, the cloud chasers, the big boys, I feel is a perfectly adequate time to talk about a very controversial topic in the vape world, and that is pod systems.
See, we had a talk about this a few days ago, or actually I think that was last night.
Yeah, it was last night.
Because, as the Nord is a pod system, it's not entirely a pod system, because running by regulations, it's more of a tank instead of a pod, because a pod is referring to the closed systems where you have to buy the pre-made little things, and you can't change out the coil, you can't change out the juice, and so on and so forth.
Now, the verdict is still out on whether or not refillable closed systems are, true pod devices or not. Technically it's all pod devices, just because you can't change the wattage. They're meant to run super, super low, just a get your nicotine fix when you need it. Some of them are for salt nig, some of them aren't.
I would say then you got the few that, even with, not being able to change it, the wattage and all that, still can run freebase and salt nig juices at different times when you change it out. It really is a toss-up right now.
And I have some clips that I may throw here in the middle of me playing with the Novo.
I think it's...
Yeah, the Vupu Novo.
Yeah, the Vupu.
And it is a fidget spinner pod system.
I've heard about this one.
It's a riot, honestly. It is definitely more of a play piece than it is like a daily vapor. Just because, in my opinion, it does not rip hard enough, it does not deliver efficiently enough. But it was a blast to play with, absolutely. You know, I had a kid a few months back, and I had the Novo with me in the hospital, and I spun it for hours. I mean, can you say ADD? But, you know, it was a blast, but it didn't deliver the right fix. And I feel the same way with Juul and a lot of the other draw activated devices. They just don't seem to deliver as efficiently as some of the open setups do. Prime example being my Nord. I actually, when these were first starting to get big, gave him so much crap over this little stupid thing that it's not even funny.
Okay, and now let me put this out there. I myself ripped hard on pod systems when they first started coming around, and I was adamant that I was never going to get a pod. And then the Nord came out, and I was like, okay, you know, that might be something I try, but I really don't think I'm gonna, you know, get anywhere with it. And then I proceeded
That's what she said.
I proceeded to own a Nord. I still have it somewhere. I have the RPM 80 Pro, which the RPM 80 Pro, even with it being an 18650 battery operated pod, we're gonna put quotations around that. It's still a really good. It produces good vapor. It's got really good flavor. It can run either salt nick or freebase juice. It's really good.
One of the cool things that I do want to highlight about his RPM 80 is that a lot of the newer RDAs and everything have switched over to the new style 810 wide bore tips, and the RPM 80 actually runs the standard 510 tip. Well, I'll get back to you when we get back to you. God damn it. Already starting this clip off great. Alright, we're back after that wonderful phone call from my wife. So we were on the topic of pod systems, and I was explaining how his RPM 80 takes the standard 510 tip, which is great in comparison to a lot of other pod systems which don't, like my Nord, for example. My Nord has the tip built into the pod, and a lot of them are that way. But an RPM 80 has a 510. Yes, it's kind of restrictive. You can bore them a little bit. You can actually even add additional airflow holes into the tip. I wouldn't recommend it unless you know what you're doing. But what that does open is that gives you the opportunity to look into other tips to further customize the RPM 80, which already comes in a cool texture design, much like my Nord. Which is just cool, you know. I love my daily vaping. I've been vaping for 6 years now, and yeah, that wind noise is probably horrible. I'm probably gonna like hang myself in editing.
Probably. I didn't think about that.
I didn't either. That no AC life, guys.
Yeah, I love that.
But anyway, you know, one of my favorite things about vaping is the customizability of everything. You know, the different coil options, the different juice options, the different, you know, add-ons, or the different styles, the different tips, like coils and RDA selection, you know, the different mod selection, like just your ability to literally do what you want with what you want is, I mean, almost endless with vaping. And being a car guy and loving the JDM market much more than the USDM market, and I use that term lightly because the USDM market, of course, does contain some vehicles that are based off JDM variants, and you can order JDM parts to replace the USDM parts and make them slightly cooler. I am referring to more the muscle car market, and I mean, truck market has JDM parts of all things, you know. The Euro market has JDM parts available. Like, the muscle car is really the one that, like, it starts to get questionable, But then you have to like ask questions and start to begin like, well, where does the muscle car line really sit? And a really good example of this is the late 70s, early 80s 240Z, 260Z, 280Z, and the Fairlady, all of which were but weren't a Fairlady Z, and of course the Datsun 280Z. They really border on that muscle car kind of vibe feel, but they're a 6-cylinder. They're kind of a tuner. It is one of the predecessors to the newer Zs that run the V6. It's kind of a predecessor to the, it's right there with like the 240s, the Skylines. Like the Zs are a wonderful platform and do share some similarities with the other generation, S chassis, Z chassis, R chassis. As far as like cultural appeal, I'm not going to say like they share parts necessarily, but they share similarities and they share the same cultural kind of feel and the same kind of drive as the big markets. And so one of that's the big thing with the JDM over the muscle is the import just in general, and the Euro, and is like the customization for those markets are just so much more than like with the muscle car. And that's one of the things that's so appealing to me over muscle cars and over V8s, and which, I mean, vaping does that. It's a lot cheaper than car parts too. I don't know if you've priced any authentic JDM parts, and even the Civic guys price authentic JDM parts and like have a whole heart attack. Prime example, I was looking at a set of EK9 side skirts a couple weeks ago for a EK Civic. They were authentic Mugen side skirts, and they sold for $3,500. Now, I don't know about you guys, but a $3,500 set of side skirts ought to make me freaking coffee. Like, that's nuts. But Mugen parts were never available in the United States. Everybody rips them off. But the one thing that I noticed with these side skirts is no one's ripped off these side skirts. Which is how you know that they were, in fact, well, and some minor details on the side skirts that I'd go into if I had a picture of them, but I don't. So in that aspect, and then, after some research, I found out there's only like sub 700 sets of those side skirts, which is a fairly low number when you think about the amount of EK Civics in the world. So they're a pretty decently rare part, and so the price is through the roof. Now, my Nord, in comparison, cost me, I think, $40.
Somewhere around there. My
cool usage can range from 1 week upwards to 3, and that's $4 for coil. So outright cost and upkeep is a lot better than cars, and they're in some aspects just as fun. And they do deliver nicotine, which is a much needed thing for myself.
Okay, to actually poke at that a little bit, because we're talking about the smaller.
What the crap! I wish that I could have turned. I'm gonna see if I can't highlight that in that little window right here. When I go back and I edit this, but there was a guy seriously sitting on the fender on the side of a tractor while someone was driving it down the highway.
That was pretty great. But that's what a lot of people are doing with the disposables and the closed-in pod systems. Is they're not trying to get into the whole vaping world. They're just trying to get away from the cigarettes and still have their nicotine, because it is so used to them for having a decent amount of nicotine.
You gotta lower that more, because that'll completely mess up editing.
Yeah, there you go.
That shouldn't be that bad.
Okay.
I'll see if I can't correct the wind noise in editing.
But like, I'm still a firm believer that, disposables are just, kind of a mess situation in the whole vaping world. But, the whole reason all of this started was to get people away from the shit that is truly killing them, which is, all the crap that cigarette companies put in their cigarettes.
Which, quick plug, not a sponsor, not anything. There is a documentary out called Vaping, Myth or Menace or something like that. I'll probably have to go back in editing and throw the name right here. But they actually talked to the gentleman that created the first electronic cigarette. And he outlines just how much better he was feeling and from getting away from that. And so that is the big end goal with vaping, is getting as many people to a healthier alternative. Now, no one said this is healthy, and I feel like that's where a lot of the stigma and issues come from in the vaping world, is that the outside world that is so dead set convinced that this is a dangerous act is convinced that we're saying that it's healthy. We're not saying that, but science has proven that it is a healthier alternative. And of course, then you have little highlights like popcorn lung and all that, which I have to urge you to do your research before you just buy into the media blast on vaping, because I'm telling you it's inaccurate. I've had to defend myself and my position a lot of times over the last couple of years with it, and I promise you, I'd go as far as to say 96% of what's covered by the media is complete and utter trash. That's just like everybody was blaming the flavors and the content of the e-juice when all this mysterious new lung disease and people dying came out, when really it was trash THC cartridges that were made with shit that not even disposables were made with, chemicals that you would you would clean your house or clean a morgue with, actual antiseptic stuff that was going to remove all traces of blood and whatnot, and they were inhaling this into their lungs, but it was vaping. No, you can't make statements like that, because then you create mass hysteria in the population, which it very much did.
Somebody that I watch did a little bit on this and was able to pull up that CDC themselves had said it was nothing to do with the actual vaping industry. It was these teenagers using stuff like the Juuls and the Junos, or not the Junos, whatever that other one that's right there with the Juul is,
the Fuse.
Yeah, the Fuse, getting these black market THC cartridges that aren't regulated from these buyers, these sellers and stuff that are super sketchy. And
which one thing I have to interject here right quick is that not all of them were being bought from Billy Joe on the corner, which is where a lot of this blame was tried to be shifted once, especially the vaping community, had the backing of the CDC saying that it wasn't the vaping doing it. The scapegoat was, Billy Joe on the corner making THC cartridges. Except he wasn't the only one. There were, for lack of a better explanation, aftermarket retailers, such as tobacco shops or glass shops, places that really shouldn't have been condoning this behavior, but were also carrying these that were made in a lab of sorts, but probably no better than Billy Joe on the corner, other than maybe cleanliness, because they were using the same stuff. So you could have went to what you thought was a trusted retailer and got this same garbage cartridge and ended up with, a lung disease. I'm sorry for my interjection, but I felt that needed clarified.
Yeah, no, you are absolutely 100% right. No, there was a lot of back-end dealings from, actual stores and stuff. It wasn't just, the random guy that, would pop up with random things like, hey, you want to try this? No, you are absolutely 100% right. It did need clarified because I didn't clarify that. But,
Which just goes to show you, your best friend, the drug dealer, actually probably might be looking out for you slightly better than the government, who is the biggest drug dealer in all of the United States. Said what I said, not sorry.
It is what it is. But I mean, general line consensus is nobody's saying that vaping is a healthy thing. It's just that it's not got as much of the stuff that normal tobacco companies put in their cigarettes. So it is a healthier substitute for your nicotine.
And while we're on that healthier subject and the amount of chemicals and whatnot that are put in cigarettes, my place of employment, I will leave the name out for sake of their protection, does have a few anti-vaping posters referring to, a couple things, a couple of myths that have been stirred up over the years. One of which being that it is a healthier alternative. They're, of course, knocking it. But in their defense, their goal is to get you to quit completely. Because in all seriousness, inhaling nothing into your lungs is a better alternative than either. But vaping is better than smoking. But on that note, the reason that I brought their signs up is one of their posters says that vaping isn't addictive and that it's a complete and entire lie. Now, I'm not saying that nicotine is not addictive. However, firsthand, being someone who smoked and has off and on smoked for years, the thing that I have to note is that I don't get the same type of craving when I want to hit my vape that I do when I want a cigarette. When I want a cigarette, it's almost primal. Like, there is some part of me that needs it in a way that I can't justify in my head. Because, like, even vaping, like, yes, I want the nicotine, and I'm not gonna for 10 seconds tell you that I'm not addicted to nicotine. It's not the same with cigarettes. And that's one of the reasons that it's hard for some people to quit, is because it's not just the nicotine. Otherwise, vaping would substitute. You get addicted to the formaldehyde because the way that it aromatizes, it creates a slightly altered fume than if you were to just smell formaldehyde. And there's so many others, and you get addicted to all the multiples of the chemicals in cigarettes. The Surgeon General actually has a sticker that comes with a lot of cigarettes now that he once put on. I don't remember the regulation on this, but I think it's at least one carton or one pack in a carton. This Surgeon General's warning, which says that they are formulated to be addictive. Nicotine itself is not formulated to be addictive because it's addictive. The cigarettes contain nicotine, but to make them more addictive, they add chemicals to preserve the tobacco and all that. There are all natural cigarettes out there with less than half the preservatives, less than half the chemicals. Now, mind you, burning anything and inhaling it into your lungs is not necessarily the best idea, but it is healthier than smoking, say, a name brand pack of cigarettes, because we're not name bashing here. But they have no problem being shelf stable. They have no need for preservatives. So, I mean, someone fill that gap in and explain that, why you have to preserve cigarettes if there are cigarettes out there without preservatives that don't need them. But so like that's the big thing that I don't feel like people are recognizing when they're trying to knock vaping as a non-healthy alternative. Is they're like, well, you could just smoke a cigarette. Why are you switching to vaping? Well, vaping is, first off, healthier, and it doesn't have as much addictive chemicals in it as a cigarette. I don't even remember where you were at when I interjected this time.
I don't either.
Controversial topics, guys, it'll do that.
Oh, God. We get on this all the time.
Yeah, that, and we've had this conversation more times than the two of us have fingers and toes combined.
True.
I've been vaping for a long time, and of course, you guys have seen a lot of the stuff over the years. You know, statements issued by the CDC, regulations being changed by the FDA. You know, there has been a lot of controversy and battles over, you know, my time vaping, along with, you know, some other vapors that have been vaping longer than myself.
I'll say, just in my time vaping, there's been a lot that's been changed and developed because of, you know, all the random stuff that keeps popping up and people trying to make vaping look so bad, so everybody just stops it and goes back to the big, you know, tobacco companies because that's what they want.
Which, if you guys didn't know, we are going to name drop for a moment because we did make one name drop earlier. He brought up Juul and Views. I don't remember who Views is owned by, but if I'm not badly mistaken, it is Altria, which was Philip Morris International, which, can you guys take a guess? Philip Morris International was the owner of Marlboro and several other cigarette lines. That is the person who is making Juul, and again, if I'm not badly mistaken, Views. So, if you think for 10 seconds they've got your health and safety in mind, I can't say that they don't. Because if you watch, maybe it was e-cigarettes, Miracle and Menace. I'm really gonna have to plug that name in there. Let's throw another one of these. See if I can't throw that back in there again. That they cover is there's actually a cigarette company that's doing research. It's British American Tobacco on vaping being healthier. But in my honest opinion, with the issues that have come up with Juul over the years, and I'm not referring to the severe lack of control over their retailers selling to underage, I'm referring to you know, number of hospital cases that weren't related to THC cartridges, just because, I mean, plain and simple, Juul is out to make their product more addictive. They're trying to get you hooked on their product, so that way Altria, aka Philip Morris, is not losing out the money to the vaping market that they were.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, you are right, it is Altria. It's the Altria Fuse, or it's either a V or an F. I cannot remember for the life of me. It's either the
Views
or the Views.
You're referring to the Views, and if the particular device that I think that you're referring to is the Views Alto. Altria is like the conglomerate company that owns them. Like, Altria's name is not put on anything, but if you do your research, which I cannot stress enough that you need to do, like, please don't take anything at face value. Please research this. Altria is either bought out or what Philip Morris International changed their name to. Either way, the point is that the company that owns Marlboro, the company that's making money off Marlboro, is the same company that owns Juul, and we believe Views. It's been a little bit since I looked into it. There was a lot of crap over disposables for a long time. And for that reason, with a passion, I do my absolute best to avoid anything disposable. I'm not saying that there aren't good disposables out there. I'm just not aware of them, and there are so many not that I have made the conscious decision to avoid them. Peace of life. No, that's not me. I'm driving a minivan.
Now, for, with your subject about, certain disposables, this is a not sponsored plug, but I follow a YouTuber by the name of Ryan Hall. He owns Mountain Vapors. They do tedious research before they buy a product, and lately it's been a lot of disposables because that is what the market is making. It's for the convenience of the consumer. And they do some really good work for their... I'm glad we stopped. I just really need gas, too. They do a lot of research to make sure... they do a lot of research to make sure that their customers stay safe and stay coming back to them, because these guys really do care, and they really do want to get you away from all the big name tobacco companies because of all the stuff that cigarettes actually do to you. Sorry, we can go back to other things now.
Well, let's see. How long are we into this clip? We are 24 minutes into this clip. I still have to edit this, and we're going to have to make another clip. So...
The other one's like 10 to 15 as well.
Yeah. It's probably going to be an hour plus podcast, which if you guys don't like the long podcast, please let me know. I will make more of an agenda for future podcasts. But we are going to get fuel, get some cash, do some stuff that I got to get done, and we will probably see you as we go to finish our trip.